Hey guys, this is Netty with Rocket Powered Sound, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how Fisher made Atmosphere. So I've gone ahead and remade the main drop section, and I'm going to show you exactly how what went into it and how you guys can kind of pick up some little tips and tricks from this exact song. Let's just dive right into it. So one of the first noteworthy things that I found about this is I noticed the kick and the sub, there's no sidechain going on at all here. Like this whole project, there's no sidechain, and the reason is because if you look at this kick, so I kind of Frankenstein two kicks together, and essentially what I did is I have this one kick. So I have the if you guys want to get the exact one, this is from the Ultimate Sample Pack. I took both of these kicks from there. So you have the leap kick and the dumbbell kick, and what I did is I took the transient from one and the sub end from the other, because what you kind of want is you want them to kind of play. You want the sub and the kick to kind of switch between each other. So if you have a listen to this, it's this A-B kind of scenario, but it's you'll never actually there's never actually a sub note playing in these little parts, which I found really interesting. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, maybe I could kind of just show you guys all the individual little parts that I have to it. So yeah, we have the sub here, just doing this little upward motion, kind of repeating itself. We have this little womp. It's on this little offbeat part right there. And then we have this little saw pluck thingy. Playing a kind of complex but simple pattern because you repeat it so often. Yeah, of course we have the drums, which altogether they sound like this. Super groovy, super bouncy. I recorded my own little vocals for the little top line. So this is just literally just me going like that in the mic, and thank God for autotune. But yeah, essentially what I did, you'll see I made a lot of cuts in here. I essentially just sang it a couple times, and then took the best parts of that fed into the autotune the nicest. So some of these other takes or some of these other ones, it didn't run into the autotune that nice, so I wanted ones where the note hit very solidly. So yeah, those are all the components of the little remake, and there's pretty much nothing else to it. Right, so let me go over the little hi-hat part. So we have the clap right here. Of course, I already kind of went over the kick, which is, yeah, again, the transient and the sub part kind of merged together. We have the clap. This is the poem clap from, I think, also the Ultimate Sample Pack. I think I took all the drums from, all the Rocket Powered Sound drums, I took them from the Ultimate Sample Pack. And then I have the Phantom Open Hi-Hat. I applied kind of a wild EQ to it, but that's kind of to shape it to be more like the original, or the sound of Atmosphere by Fisher. And then on top of that, I have this kind of group that groups all the hi-hats together. And that just kind of rolls off the high end to make it a bit more gentle, because the mixdown of Atmosphere has this kind of interesting feel to it, where there's not really that much high end going on, but it does still work, and some artists can kind of just get away with that, and so I kind of try to emulate that, and I think it kind of worked. So yeah. So yeah, I kind of this is just some tonal EQ to shape the sound a bit to get it to be exactly like the original. And then with that, I have layered just a classic 909 hi-hat. And I pitched it up 3 semitones, so you'll probably recognize that. And then I have this little accented hi-hat. So this is the exact same hi-hat as this Phantom hi-hat. I just placed it on this little accent note, right? And I added a spectral time. So what this does is it kind of smooths over the sound, instead of it being, so it'll take any sound from being kind of a harsh transient like this, to a really smooth thing like that. So I don't know if there's anything like this for FL Studio or for Logic, if you guys use either of those DAWs, or any other DAW for that matter. So sorry about that if you guys don't have that. But I also delayed this 24 milliseconds so that it swung a bit. So this is without the swing. It's a lot more like a straight groove, and now it's swung. You hear that? Killers in the Jungle. yeah, so let's get into the sound design of this and like kind of the processing now. So I went kind of nerdy on the sub, and like I promise. So if you don't really care about this, then that's totally fine. You feel free to like skip ahead a bit. But I went like kind of in detail about like how the sub is structured from Fisher's song, because I feel like it's a really important like aspect to get to like really nail the sub. So what I did is the most nerdy crap ever. So what you can do in Serum is you have like a wavetable editor. So like, you know, when you load up a wavetable, you can like click this little arrow or this little pencil, and you can just like edit like the what's called, I think it's called partials, which are basically like these little like things, and like they control how like a sound sounds. So what I did is I took a sine wave and I added like the second and third harmonics like exactly like this, because I when I looked at the EQ curve of like the sub in the Fisher track, I noticed I had like kind of like this like loudness relationship between each other. And then what I did is this is where the really nerdy stuff happens, right? You can adjust the phase of the partials. So meaning like, if you guys don't really know what this even is, it's like what I'm even doing here. I'm essentially adding these like extra little like sine waves that kind of like form a whole like wavetable. So this is, you know, your main sine wave, and then this is like a sine wave that's an octave up, and then this one is like an octave and a fifth up or something like that. And like that like will eventually like form to sound like, for example, like a saw wave or a, you know, square wave, like whatever it is, like, you know, if you get specific combinations of that. But yeah, anyway, I adjusted the phase of these so that like you can notice kind of like when I start doing this, it like tweaks the waveform. And the thing is, what you kind of ideally want is that it looks as much like a square wave as possible when you're making a sub. So let me like kind of like dial this back. So I'm looking at this, like these like two peaks. I'm trying to get these as like high as possible. And so that's why it's kind of like situated like this. It's like, if I kind of like start tweaking it, it's like, I can't really turn this up that loud without this part clipping like really hard, and then the rest like not really being that loud. And so the goal is here is to kind of get this like sitting like perfectly like squared off like this, so that you can turn it up as loud as possible. And so yeah, then I turned it up really loud, and you know, now you have a banging sub. So yeah, tangent over. Now you know how to make like a little Fisher sub. And yeah, no other processing on that. Just like, it's just raw from Serum and just like being nice and loud. So yeah, then we have this little womp. So when we go into the Serum, we have just like a basic shapes sine wave and a harmonic series. And so like, if you guys have like seen some of the other Skrillex videos, I think I went into like I like how to make like a little womp bass, and that's essentially what I did here. So I just took like the harmonic series, I put it on like the one where you have like 8 repetitions of like the sine wave from the random all the way down, and then added a FM from B and just like turned it up a little bit, and then automated that go down like this, and then also like a bit of volume automation. That's it for like the Serum part of that. And then I added OTT, just like beef it up a bit. So here, I'll just do like before and after. We got this is the before, kind of lame. And then I added an OTT and then an EQ to get rid of the sub, because we already have the sub right here. We have the Fisher, the epic Fisher sub right here. And then yeah, so I cut out the low end from that so that it's not like clashing, because that would sound bad. I added a fat rack. So this is just like one of my own little like arrangement of effects. It's this secret sauce, if you will. It's not really secret sauce. You could probably achieve like a very similar effect by just adding like another OTT. So like, you know, don't stress that too much. It's not really that specific that you need the fat rack or something like that. So don't worry about that. It's just a bit of a shortcut. And then I added a Valhalla room, which is just a reverb plugin, just to give it like a bit more space in the mix. So yeah, and then moving on from the little womp, we have the saw pluck. So this sound is like hilariously simple. It's just like well, maybe not hilariously simple, but we have a saw wave at an octave up the sub. And what I did is I took the LFO1 and mapped it to the level. So that's just kind of like, you know, going up and down in volume. I put the detune to 16 voices, and I turned that detune down a bit, and then so you get the nice like unison sound. And then I added a filter, a low pass filter, and mapped LFO1 to that, so that it's kind of like doing this little motion. This is also, here, before I get into like this swing and stuff like that, this is run through an OTT and a EQ8, so that the, like a little low cut, so that it doesn't clash with the sub. And it doesn't clash with the womp either. Yeah, and there you go. These are like the main 3 like elements, in my opinion. That make up like the sub, and like, you know, getting these kind of EQ'd right is definitely very, very important. Like especially if you're making like a minimalistic track, like these like very small details do really matter. Like I know I really got into like the really weird like details of it, but like it does really kind of add up when you like pay attention to like all these like tiny little details like over and over again. Like you get this like really like, you know, like nicely formed like simple song, and I think there's like definitely an art to that. So yeah, again, just the kick, kind of the kick that you know that I was looking for, type of kick, simple clap. Really simple. I roll off the high end a bit because again, like the Fisher mixes are tend to be kind of like a bit more like, you know, high end reduced. And yeah, oh right, I don't know if I mentioned this. I also grouped all the hi-hats. I don't think I did mention this. I grouped all the hi-hats and rolled off the high end a little bit so that it's also kind of like a bit more like tamed. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the vocals, this is kind of like the rack like processing I did. So the vocals are in C minor. And this is Nectar 3, which is by Isotope, I think. Is it? I don't know if it's Isotope. Sorry. But it's just an autotune plugin. Any autotune plugin will do if you're also trying to kind of recreate this. And then I added a gate. So this is just to kind of like, if there's any like background noise, it would just like cut it out automatically. So that way I'm not like OTTing like background noise, because like you might hear something like, yeah, you kind of hear my breaths and stuff. You don't really want that. And then I compressed it really hard. So you can see the needles going up kind of far. And this is just to make sure that like any like really high bumps in volume don't get like, they don't like shoot through the mix or anything like that. Like they don't jump scare you essentially, like, because that happens sometimes when you record vocals, is like, well, I mean, it will probably happen unless you're doing a na kind of like a thing. But yeah, it just ensures that everything is kind of the same volume. Again, we have the fat rack. You could just use an OTT for this. I just like to use the fat rack. Right, the main thing that is important with this is I turned up the time all the way. So like if you add an OTT and you turn up the time all the way, that's kind of what I did. And I turned up the stereo on it. So what that does is I have a dimension expander in there from Xfer, which is this little guy. And so it's just kind of like roughly on like these settings. So if you want to like copy that, there you go. But that just adds like a nice little bit of width. And then after that, I just have another OTT and EQ8 to like really boost the high end a bit to get that like nice and fresh sound. And then something kind of interesting, I have like a delay, but it's like kind of a slapback delay that kind of repeats over and over again. So like without, it sounds like this. And like in the mix, it sounds kind of dry and like weird. But then you add it back. Adds that like slight bit of room, you know? And then after that, I have a Valhalla room. I feel like this is the same one that I used earlier with a womp, but I could be wrong. It's just on 18% and like a small amount of decay. It's just like it's barely noticeable, but it's there. And then afterwards, I rolled off the high end again for that like kind of like more muffled mix. And yeah, that's kind of it. So one thing I found, we'll move on to some kind of like arrangement things that I noticed. One thing that I found pretty interesting about like the arrangement of this is, yeah, again, like I touched on the kick and like sub kind of like, you know, like bouncing back and forth like relationship. I also found it interesting that you have like the sub, right? But then you also have like the saw pluck. Like I would have thought that like you would include like a sub with this. Like if I was making this track, I would have probably assumed that you would do that, but no, it's like he has like a separate sub that does like totally its own thing, and then on top of that you have the saw plug. Right, and also let me mention, I have like a groove on this project, like a global groove. It's this one, swing 16th 68, and that just means that like it just swings it automatically. So like if I go in the MIDI here, like you'll see if I turn this off, that sounds really straight and like way too on beat and not groovy, right? And then you add the swing. You know, it really makes it sound a lot more better. Another interesting thing I've noticed is like you have the sub going like bum 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 like that kind of, but then the saw pluck stays the same, which I thought was kind of interesting, kind of neat, and I think that kind of helps maybe like kind of lengthen like how long each like we'll call it like a phrase is, because like let's say it was just this looping, right? That becomes stale so quick, but then you know, like if you like have this saw pluck going up like a semitone, like at the end, then it like makes it like this long of a loop instead of this long of a loop. You know what I mean? So I found that pretty interesting too. And yeah, I mean, other than that, it's like a super simple song. Like there's not really that much to it, right? Like, you know, you can fit basically the whole song in like one Ableton project file like this, like in one like screenshot. That's pretty much all I've got to share with you. So I hope you found this video educational. Remember, if you want to check out some of these samples, do check out Rocket Powered Sounds' sample packs. They're fantastic. And yeah, I'll see you guys in another video. Bye bye.